Welcome back to This Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. If you're a focused learner looking to sharpen your critical thinking, you are in the exact right place today. Because have you ever been in the middle of making just a rock-solid point, only to find the entire conversation completely derailed? You're literally left standing there wondering, wait, how do we even get on this topic? Well, today we're breaking down a brilliant concept from our source material that explains exactly why our conversations get hijacked like this, and much more importantly, how you can stop it right in its tracks.
So, picture this highly relatable scenario from the text to see how this hijacking actually works. Imagine you're presenting some hard data on city air pollution. You're bringing up the death rates caused by factory smoke, you've got the facts, the numbers, the whole shebang. But then, suddenly, your opponent pivots. Instead of actually addressing the data, they start telling this incredibly emotional, nostalgic story about their grandfather's heroism back in World War II.
And what happens next? The debate is entirely hijacked. Suddenly, everyone in the room is crying over the grandfather's bravery, but that crucial question about the factory pollution, it remains completely unanswered. The person who brought it up, you in this case, are just left standing there, totally confused. The opponent deliberately stole the debate's focus by shifting the audience's emotional state, and honestly, it worked flawlessly.
So the crucial point is that this isn't just some random accident. It is a highly calculated, logical fallacy known as the red herring. According to our sources, this is a tactic specifically used to evade accountability. By introducing a topic that's incredibly appealing, deeply emotional, or maybe extremely controversial, the opponent distracts absolutely everyone from the main path of logic. It's really one of the oldest, most effective tricks in the book, used when someone just doesn't have a good answer to your core argument.
All right, let's move into Section 1, Root of the Red Herring, the historical metaphor.
To really understand how this manipulates human psychology, we have to look back at how English hunters used to train their dogs. It goes like this. Step 1, the dog tracks the target's footprint. Step 2, the hunters drag this incredibly pungent, smoked, smelly red herring across that path. And Step 3, the dog loses the real scent and chases the fish instead. The source text makes this brilliant connection here. In a logical debate, your opponent throws in a smelly, highly charged emotional topic to literally force your brain, just like that hunting dog, to lose the real scent of the logical argument.
Which brings us to Section 2, the herring in daily life, and how we get distracted absolutely everywhere.
Because to truly master this concept, we have to realize it doesn't just happen in formal, televised debates, it's everywhere. Our source material categorizes these everyday distraction traps into 3 primary domains where we see them pop up the most: politics, relationships, and school. I'm going to break down exactly what this fallacy looks like in each of these areas, so you can start spotting them instantly out there in the real world.
First up, politics. Imagine a journalist asking a politician, hey, why is inflation at 50%? Instead of actually addressing the economy, the politician replies with something like, look, we are building the biggest bridge in the country, and foreign enemies want to weaken us. And this brilliantly illustrates the tactic. The politician completely dodges a direct, really difficult economic question by throwing the massive fish of national pride and foreign threats out there. The public gets totally distracted by the enemies and the bridge, and they entirely forget that the 50% inflation question was never actually answered. And, it's equally destructive at home. Take a relationship scenario, for example. One partner says, you promised to wash the dishes, right? Just a simple, factual statement about domestic chores. But the response is, remember that expensive birthday gift I bought you last year? I love you so much. Suddenly, this basic argument about accountability is transformed into a heavy, emotional guilt trip about love and past generosity. The dishes are completely forgotten, and the original scent is lost.
It even happens in the classroom, and sometimes it's literally an act of self-sabotage. A teacher asks, why didn't you do your homework? And the student deflects with, well, it's too hot today and the class fan is broken. How can I focus? They completely avoid accountability by complaining about the physical environment. The source actually notes that we do this to ourselves all the time too. Like when we tell ourselves we absolutely cannot study until our messy room is perfectly clean. We're throwing our own red herring just to avoid doing the hard work.
Now for Section 3. The back-to-track technique, how to defeat the distraction.
So, how do we actually counter this fallacy in real time? Well, here's the golden rule, and it's absolutely vital to remember. Do not argue the distracting topic. You have to act as a heavy anchor. If you start arguing about the grandfather's World War II memories or, debating whether that birthday gift was actually expensive, you've already lost the game. Your mind's hunting dog instinct has completely taken over, and you are chasing the fish. You must drop the anchor.
Now, what's really interesting here is that to handle this like a pro, you need the exact right phrasing. You say something like, "Your points about that topic are interesting, but they are not related to our main question here. Let's please get back to the main discussion." This polite but incredibly firm boundary shuts down the fallacy instantly. It practically forces the opponent right back onto the main logical rails.
Let's apply this to our very first example from earlier in the explainer. You just look at your opponent and say, "Hey, that is a great story about your grandpa, but let's get back to the factory smokestacks." By applying this technique, you prevent the hunting dog of the audience's mind from just running off into the emotional woods. You validate the distraction briefly, sure, but you immediately return the focus strictly to the data and the logic.
Moving to our final part, Section 4. Don't buy the fish trick. Stay on the logical path.
As we wrap up this explainer, the core takeaway is really quite simple. Just don't buy the fish trick. Whenever you're in a debate, you've got to stay vigilant. If the conversation suddenly pivots to an emotional issue out of nowhere, recognize it as a distraction. It is all about keeping your focus sharp. Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on today. The next time you smell the fish in a conversation, what are you going to do? Will you let your instincts chase the distraction, or will you drop that heavy anchor and get everyone back on the rails? Keep that in mind for your next debate. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, stay focused and keep learning.